So here we have today Mr. Ranbir Bhutani, founder of Cyberculture LLC, who has a very exciting talk for us today. He's gonna give you a purview of what CISO does and why small business and founders need a CISO, virtual CISO. So he will give further insight into his topic. So please welcome Ranbir Bhutani from Cyberculture LLC.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the introduction, Naval. My name is Ranbir Bhutani, and I'm president and co-founder of Cyberculture. And to Devil's question, what is a virtual CISO or what is a CISO? Typically, CISO stands for Chief Information Security Officer, and really what they do is their oversight of an organization as far as implementing a cybersecurity or putting protocols that are in place. And as far as putting protocols in place, they ensure the safety of an organization's data, whether it be technologies, whether it be on the compliance side, really like insider threat, threat intelligence, sort of mix of things. And the beauty of a CISO is that not only that they run the whole program, but at the same time, they're the backbone as far as keeping the organization's data safe as far as being targeted against the latest cyber attacks, ransomware. So really, the whole virtual CISO concept has been a fairly new concept recently, and really what they do is they come in and help organizations, not on a full-time basis, but let's say 5, 10, 15, 20 hours a month, and really they can come in and learn and understand their organization by doing, of course, a risk assessment, understanding where are some of their strengths and weaknesses, and basically come up with a plan as far as building a very strategic cybersecurity program. And the beauty of doing that is that a lot of organizations right now are in that fear mode that will they become the next target or victim of a cyber attack. And that being said is that instills fear. Now, the problem with that is when you instill fear, it gets into a very reactionary mode. And really, naturally, especially a VCs like me and many others that are out there, we would come in and say, okay, well, what's the problem and what data are you trying to secure? So naturally, what we're trying to do is keep them safe as far as a virtual CISO. And now the beauty of being a virtual CISO, you work with many different companies, like insider threat company, threat intelligence, endpoint detection solutions, or even SIM related. And in this case, working with Rainbow Secure, they provide a privileged access management, password-based solution, keep your password very secure. And the beauty of that is that you can recommend those type of products, going back to being the vCISO. So you come in as an executive strategic advisor to the company, working with C-level executives, working with the board of directors. And really, you're telling them a story as the problem that they're facing, because cybersecurity is all over the place today. Everybody wants to get into it and understand how it works. But naturally, it goes back to there's a problem that we need to come up with, that we need to provide a solution. So let's make it easy and simple. So when you go there and make it easy and simple, naturally it makes sense, and you can mold as far as what type of program you want. And naturally, of course, in different countries, Europe, there's the GDPR compliance per se. In Canada, they're coming up with more strict laws around cybersecurity. In the United States, we have some laws in place, such as HIPAA, PCI compliance, even ISO 27000. So really, naturally, those compliancy standards are part of some of the security, but naturally, it goes back to National Institute of Science and Technology, which has a bunch of security controls. So really, this is not to further elaborate and get into further into in-depth analysis, is where these are the controls that a lot of organizations, especially on the federal side, and a lot of commercial and private sectors are adopting. So naturally, to come in as vCISO, you don't need to be there on a full-time basis, and that's the beauty of it. And working companies like with Rainbow Secure, naturally, if the client or customer is looking for a PAM-based solution, a privileged access management-based solution, naturally, I would recommend them because of the solution they have. It's very unique. There's nothing out there like I've seen before, and again, that's just giving you an example as far as coming as a vCISO. Really, we're not taking the CISO we're not taking a CISO role or taking over it, but naturally we come in, and let's say naturally, even if the organization has a CISO already, we come in there and give them a second opinion, right? I just give you another example. It's like going to the doctors. You get a checkup, and they're like, okay, well, there's a problem. Okay, well, sometimes inside you're like, maybe that's not the problem, and you go get a second opinion. So that's really the role of a VC, is to come in, help the organization solve a problem, and tell them a story. We make it that easy, and really, it's a no-brainer, right? And from that point on, naturally, there's a few things that you have to do within an organization because you need to understand their data points naturally. But really taking the technical side of it, because everybody's like, oh, technical, do I need to know programming? Absolutely not. Everybody's like, oh, I need to know computers. Absolutely not. It's really, going in there and knowing and learning the organization as if your own, or if you work there per se. But coming from the outside in, you do a thorough analysis. You get to learn the people that you work with, and naturally, I just make it easy. And if you make it easy and simple across the board, everybody will understand you, everybody will work with you. And that's the beauty of from where I come from, at least when I work with my clients. But yeah, that's definitely vCISO in a nutshell. And yeah, Devil, please.
Yes, yeah, it was a really nice introduction. At least now people will know when they hear the term, vCISO, because people normally are familiar with CISO, but then they will ask, what is vCISO? So this was very nice, simplistic explanation you gave, but it's very hard work behind this. vCISO has more responsibility, as you said. It's a second opinion, as you said. It's all about, helping the business understand the implications of what's going on, because normally people rise and they question you only when they see some hacking news. Then they'll just call you up, hey, by the way, is this something
Yeah.
we are also affected? So
Yeah.
there's sometimes a lot of firefight. You have to go run around. If you have multiple clients, right, you have to go at different, cater to a different clients, and maybe almost at the same time. Like the last issue with MS Exchange related, the bug they had, and the patching. Everybody wanted to patch at the same time because now everything was in the news.
Yeah.
So they initially, ignore or say delay the patching, or sometimes people are not even aware of it. And when they become aware, then they try to address that. And then where you may even need helping hand, you may have security staff on board, but when they are busy with a lot of stuff, or if there's some breach and there's a lot of investigation going on, then they need a say independent entity who would come in and do the audits and do the thing. So I think it's very much a nice explanation you gave. Now, one thing I would like to ask you that can you please share a real life example of where you went to a client site and you found something that was client was thinking, oh, is this so simple or something, but it was very, very serious matter. Maybe that our young attendees here can learn from. Don't ignore even the smallest thing. So I just
Yeah.
wanted.
No, that's a great question, Devil. Yeah, and to answer that, yeah, really, so one of my clients, really, naturally, the first thing that I do, especially when I go to a client, is I must do a security assessment, only because I need to scan their environment. And of course, no coding or skills required. It's using a tool, right? There's tons of tools out there as far as scanning wise. So naturally, you get the scanning tool, you run the scan, and now you get information that gives you what's critical, like as far as findings, critical, medium, low. So going from that point, especially when you see the critical findings, rather than going to them and saying, well, you have 10 critical findings and you need to address this now, I come up with a story and put them at ease in the sense, okay, well, you have this critical finding, here are my recommendations, and these are the options. Sometimes maybe if they can't fix it right away because it may break one of their customized applications, understood, but are they willing to accept the risk? Yes. And naturally, that's up to the organization, and you keep it that simple, right? Because again, it's telling a story and presenting it to them as far as, okay, well, here's what I found, and this is the recommendations that need to happen. Here are my suggestions, and if you're willing to accept those risks, fine. If not, then then they go ahead and remediate those actions itself, right? As far as what needs to be addressed, right? And really that starts the story as far as understanding their environment, knowing what they need. As far as the technical component, CVE, right? Another word for that is vulnerability. Well, C-level executives like, what's a vulnerability? C-level board of directors like, what's a vulnerability? They don't need to know that. Just tell them exactly your HR department has some critical findings, and you even give them a grade for it, like you're in grade school, right? This is part of actually one of my deliverables. You give them a grade. The grade I gave them, for example, was a C, right? Okay, well, they're okay, but they need to address some weaknesses. Okay, so Ranbir, what do we need to do? Okay, these are the things you need to do to get them addressed, and you take out the technical component of it, and you're like, okay, well, Ranbir, what's my return on investment? Okay, well, if in the case that this environment, your HR human resources department was hacked, I just saved you $400,000. Now, how do I get that number? Is it's based of what is it, cost benefit analysis. So really, it's their financials, for example, taking that and say, okay, well, their human resources, and it's crunching numbers essentially. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into the woods, but that's one component of it. So now you tell them, okay, you would have saved $300,000. All of a sudden, light bulbs go off in the room because now you're speaking their language. Because ideally, as business owners, what do we care? What do we mostly care about as far as importance, profits versus losses? Yes, that is very important, of course. But then your protection of your data is even priceless. Why? Because ransomware attack that let's give an example, Colonial Pipeline, right? They paid that $5 million. Of course, the Department of Justice, FBI, they all got involved and they got some of their money back, but they could have avoided all that. They didn't have to pay the ransomware. 9 times out of 10, hacker or cyber criminals, they'll give you the key, but it doesn't work. It's useless. So it's more of a scare tactic for them to get money out of that organization, right? So naturally, going back to your question, is that you will have certain challenges that you face with the clients, but you have to tell them a story to put them at ease, because cybersecurity has become quite reactionary across many different organizations. They only implement a program if they get breached or they're in a process of attack. That's not the way to do it. You want to prepare. It's just like development of a product. Like, are you going to release your product like a year after into development when it's not completely ready? Absolutely not, because now you're selling a client a false story, right? It's not genuine. It's not authentic. So, of course, be real with them. Hey, this is what's going on. Tell a story that makes sense to them, and that's it. Very, very easy and simple. Yeah.
Yeah, Ranveer, I think that's very, on point. Now, other thing that I would like to hear, I want you to highlight to the audience that sometimes how hard it is, to convince the different teams of not hurrying up with the security review, but, take time and understand the pros and cons of different aspects of the deployment, because this is especially when now we are migrating to the cloud. Because of the pandemic, most of the business processes are going online, so there is a sudden rush, of converting the apps to the online, or business workflows to online. So just highlight, what would be the good approach for a infosec professional or a virtual CISO or even a CISO to talk to the business and lay down the priorities.
Absolutely know that. So it's interesting how you said the word hard. Why is it hard? It's never hard. Nothing is hard unless you feel that way. You make it easy, right? So I come in, and again, I don't know about other virtual CISOs, but I come in and I tell the story. Again, I tell the story and I make it easy for them. This is based on my analysis and all the data points that I have. This is exactly what you need. Remember, they're coming to us for guidance as expertise, right? We should never question our ability or our knowledge or our background, because we come in with the knowledge, as opposed to them not understanding what cybersecurity or even what the word means. So I say, be elaborate with your words. So as opposed to saying something is hard, we say something is easy. we make it easy, it's easy for them, everybody's on board, there's no problem, right? It can go to show organizations across the entire globe, right? It doesn't matter what language we speak. We all speak a language, but we all sense the same energies at that point of time, right? So like, for example, you asked me the question, why is it hard? But why can't we say why is it not easy? It should be easy. Always make it easy, make it simple, and things naturally work out. I mean, it's just like us going, to potential clients or talking to partners. I mean, it's really a no-brainer when you can be on the same page and your synergies sync together. It works very well. Now, for let's say clients that the synergies don't sync, then sometimes, things may not always work out, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You accept it and you move on. So nothing is hard unless you make it difficult. That's my point.
I think very well said, well said. So another topic that I would like to touch quickly upon is how virtual CISO or CISO would help business achieve the compliance with the different data privacy regulations. Because data privacy is a big challenge right now, considering the business use of the data versus securing the data that the customer or your end user trust upon you. So give some insight into that.
Oh yeah, no, that's a great question. So for compliancy like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI, ISO 27000, SOC 2 Type 2. Now I've noticed the trend that a lot of startup companies and smaller companies are doing the SOC 2 Type 2 because they work with a lot of those bigger companies that require it. So naturally, are there tools out there? There are tons of tools to automate the process, right? But at the end of the day, where is this all stemming from? And that's the big mystery question, but it's really not. Most of these controls are coming from NIST with the combination of depending on what type of systems. And as you indicated earlier, everything is going cloud-based now. Well, how do I know my data is secure in their instance, right? And the expectation that the organization has continuous monitoring, has controls in place, right? So that's at least the expectation. But going back to as a vCISO, we come in there and look at what documents do they have a disaster recovery plan? Do they have a business continuity plan? What if their systems go down, even if it's in the cloud? Do they have a backup instance so there's no impact to business operations? Because let's say they have millions of transactions happening every day, right? So and if you're down, you're down a million transactions, and that equates to dollars and cents, right? So naturally, coming in there and even seeing if they already have documentation, and that's the challenges and I believe you'll agree with this, that a lot of organizations, they don't have a lot of these documents, especially from the cybersecurity component. Even though they are compliant, there's still a lot of missing pieces and moving parts and bits and components. So naturally, we come in and say, okay, well, what type of documentation do you have that's meeting your compliance? And it's not necessarily have to be tailored towards cybersecurity, but as far as meeting their compliance when they work with their customers, because their clients require it, whether they're a transactional based company or product based company or services, right? And with the collaboration of your company, for example, you guys do services plus products, right? So your products have to meet a certain compliancy as well, even though you go to the client, they're like, okay, well, are you SOC 2 Type 2? Do you follow NIST controls, for example, if that's something that they require. So that's just giving you an example, but naturally it's going in there and saying, okay, this is what you need. I mean, actually you can go to NIST site and there's all the documents that you need to tailor to their organization. And, there are products and technologies out there that just automate some of that stuff for you. But actually a lot of this information is out there on the web, and you can really tailor it to their environment. And that's the beauty of being a vCISO from a compliance standpoint.
Yes, I think it's very essential that compliance is been taken care with good hands, because if something goes wrong and if there's a data breach, then the first question will be, who was the guardian of the data? Who was the one to enforce the proper policies of not exposing too much data or not capturing even? Because it's not only about you know maintaining the data privacy. Now there's a thought process where capture only what you need.
Yeah.
So here, there is again a lot of work behind the scenes goes on, where you have to work on the data, you have to work with the application teams, and need to enforce the data governance guidelines. So I think, yes, it's a very important role a CISO plays or leads in these projects and efforts. And I think most of our young audience who is listening right now, they would now have got some kind of clarity and much needed information and explanation of what they are looking forward to.
Yeah, no, that I mean that's definitely you're on point as far as it cybersecurity is all over the place, but at the same time you have to hone in, and this is just like any solving any problem in life, whether it's technology based, it's personal, family, business related, all sorts of problems that you come up with solutions, right? And I think naturally sometimes we fail to see, well, why did it only take 5 minutes to fix a problem that took over 10 days to analyze? And so because when you make things too complicated, then sometimes it just gets all over the place. But when you simplification actually makes things very easy, right? Whether it's, again, going back to cybersecurity, many other industries out there, and again, whatever you do in life in general, you simplify it and you just tell a story and you make it easy for the client. And then actually the client's like, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Well, it's not about making the sale. It's not about making the revenue. It's about solving their problems, securing their data, and helping them feel safe. I believe we had a question. How do you look at the cybersecurity market considering the current cases of data breaches and violations? That's actually a very good question. And cybersecurity is everywhere. The hackers and cyber criminals are everywhere, all, even on Mars, maybe. I'm just kidding. But the point is that you have to understand that they're in business because they're on the opposite end of what they do, as far as stealing companies' data, selling it on the dark web. This is what they do, as far as what we do, because we're on the opposite end, playing the good cops, to not necessarily to try to stop them, but as far as coming up with solutions and technologies that can protect you, not only as a consumer or an individual, but even on a professional level for many organizations, right? So at least there's always continuing cases of data breach, right? And there's a lot of them that you won't hear about it because, let's say, it's in other countries, unless it makes the news here, right? And of course, you hear about the big ones here in U.S., like the big JB meatpacking. Meatpacking, it's manufacturing meat. Who's gonna hack a meatpacking industry? So they
Yes,
got
right. Yeah, totally unsuspected area, and hackers now are, I think, targeting tier two, tier three companies.
oh
Most
yeah,
of these are, yeah,
yep, was it Colonial Pipeline?
yeah,
Hack of oil company
yeah,
industry that sells gas. Well, it's connected to the network. It's connected to the system. Why not? Remember Target, Home Depot. I mean, these are years
yeah,
ago, right? I'm naming big names here, and then SolarWinds, monitoring company, 300,000 vendors,
yeah,
300,000 customers
yeah,
that does monitoring. I mean, if it wasn't for FireEye to catch them,
yes, yes.
I mean,
So
a lot of companies know that. A lot of companies actually have been hacked. They just don't know about it.
yes, yeah, it takes time. Maybe I read somewhere that it takes at least 6 to 8 months for a company to realize sometimes that they have been hacked. Hackers have been in your system so long. It just, when they say, okay, I'm done stealing all your data, or now it's my time to strike and be visible, it happens sometimes.
Yep.
Only
And
some businesses are lucky to find them before that, and they try to do a anti hacking operations and dismantle, but only few corporations can afford that, and sometimes only few
yeah.
people can catch them because yeah,
Well, and this is another interesting case in point, and getting away from that question, of course, is remember when Amazon or Capital One got breached, but it was on Amazon Cloud, AWS. So
yes,
it was sort of finger pointing back. No, Amazon is your fault. No, Capital One is your fault. No,
yeah,
Amazon. So really, naturally, because going to the cloud, it's who's liable now.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
got a big bank
yeah,
versus even bigger e-commerce, like huge e-commerce industry. So it's like, okay, well, one versus the other, but it goes back to your point, Double. If
Yes.
you don't put the controls in place, even if you're not considering building a cyber program with your organization, you got to start somewhere. Even if you're a small startup, even startups like myself, startups like you guys, like what we're doing here, Double, you guys are changing the way that you're changing the industry of PAM completely, and the way we look at passwords, completely different. That is unique, none other. I'm here to change the culture of cybersecurity, hence cyber culture. I'm not selling my business. I'm just telling a story that's saying that, we're onto something here, something so unique, something so different, something that nobody's really thought of, right? Because everything has naturally been as a process, and it's just been continued on to generation because this is the way. Well, why does it have to be that way? Says who? According to what law? According to what books? Yes, there's lots of books out there. Yes, lots of information, lots of knowledge sharing. But sometimes your thoughts come through, and you come, like Nahal was saying, how she had an idea. She saw, she saw something. Just a kid using colors, and all of a sudden, voila, an idea spanned in her mind to be where you guys are today, and that is just amazing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, this is the entire theme of the event. Month-long celebration is all about sharing your real life experience, real life knowledge,
Right.
and enable your partners, enable your fellow professionals in the industry, enable the businesses and startup founders who would be also watching this video on a recorded on demand. So all it's all about working together to make sure that business is secure, and also it follows the compliance rules, and
Yeah,
I
no,
think that we empower everyone.
absolutely. And Devil, there was one more question. In case we come across an incident of data breach, how would you suggest us to do? That's a great question. So naturally, you would probably want someone to come in and at least as second opinion, a virtual CISO. It doesn't have to be me, but I'm just suggesting. They come in and do a thorough analysis, at least a risk assessment, and get an idea of exactly what happened, and then based on that information, come up with the conclusion of exactly what protocols and policies, procedures, controls, at least security controls they need in place to avoid that. For example, ransomware, minor attack framework, very, very solid framework to work. It's a lot, but it helps organizations understand that, strip aside the technical component, but it helps organizations understand where their weaknesses were and where they can get to improve on that, right? And that's, again, giving one example. Yeah, but that's a great question. Thanks, Pujan.
Yes, you. I think now we are up to the time. So, but it was a very nice and enriching conversation we had. You said a lot of information and a lot of how things work. That many of our young audience is learning and listening today.
Absolutely.
So, thank you very much, and we look forward for more exciting talks from you. So we
Absolutely.
expect maybe you can join us again in a week or two.
Oh
And
yeah, no, absolutely. Anytime you need me, Dhaval and Nahal, I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much,
Well,
and Dr. Shashi. Nice meeting you. Thank
Ranbir,
you.
I have one question for
Okay,
you.
go ahead.
Okay, so if someone wants to do as a choose a career as a vCISO, how how they can do? Like,
like
what would you suggest?
Oh, like if you have a potential organization looking for a vCISO?
no,
No,
the
someone
students.
like a student.
If
What do you just
Oh,
say about the student? How they choose this vCISO as a career path?
that's a great question. So let's say even if they choose as a vCISO career path, it's like going to the CISO career path, right? Naturally, you don't necessarily have to have CISO experience to get into the role, but I'd say at least have some knowledge of cybersecurity and have some training, perhaps maybe get some experience through an internship, and somebody that, or even a mentor to work with you, right? I'm partnered with another company, for example, that does they team you up with executives like myself that does mentorship, and that's another route to go. I can also make myself available. That's not a problem, and really have somebody to guide and lead you in the right path. And of course, you definitely want to be passionate about anything you do, and it feels good. And if it doesn't feel good, I say don't do it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for your advice.
Can you suggest what kind of certification they can get?
You don't need any certifications to get into this
Oh,
role,
that's
honestly.
very
Even
good.
into cybersecurity, you don't need a degree, you don't need certifications. It's all a false misnomer because the organization requires it. I mean, of course, yeah, becoming a doctor and a lawyer, very different scenario. But because cybersecurity is so broad and there's so many different subcomponents of cybersecurity, really it depends on what you want to do. You want to go the technical route, become a security engineer, incident response analyst. Um, like a network security engineer. That's all the technical side. You don't want to do the technical. You want to do compliance, become, like a GDPR analyst, or sorry, like a compliance, security compliance analyst. You go more on the information assurance. On the government side, they do certification accreditation. You want to learn insider threat. You're all about insider threat. Employees stealing from you, stealing data, taking sensitive information and sending it to their competitors. So you have technology that does some of that stuff. You don't even need to. Again, you don't need to programming for that.
Okay.
You want to become. I mean, there's so many different roles within cybersecurity, and going back to the vCISO, you want to be a vCISO. Anybody can do it. I have another partner. His son is like 20 years old. He didn't want to pursue the college route. He said, "I'm going to go and he works with his dad. His dad has an MSP, of course, but he's about to get a couple opportunities to become a
So,
CEO at that age. I mean, he only worked 2-3 years for his father's company.
so
So
I have another question for that. Like, if you choose as a VCISO, sir, is there any kind of liability?
no, there's no. I mean, again, I mean, are you saying labs as far as
Yeah, I
understanding the
think yes.
technology?
Yeah, let me explain it. Maybe
Yeah.
she's pointing toward that when you take up any profession, whether it's a profession of a doctor, lawyer, or even a technology professions like a
Yeah.
CISO. So there, like you have to manage your own risk, like risk to your own professional
Sure.
service or a business. So yeah, liability is I think a very important topic that we will touch upon in coming weeks. But yes, it's a very important thing to you know you know decide on what you're advising, what area you have to be sure, you have to be responsible on what you do. So there are various liability insurance is also available that Secure and its partners can help the professionals, small businesses, and even founders in both technology and non-technology domains.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah.
that's a great question. So, as far as doing what I'm doing, really, you don't need a degree, you don't need certifications. Naturally, if you are passionate about it, you want to learn about it. There are many different components to learn about cybersecurity. Yes, nothing to fear as far as the programming or understanding how technology works, because there are lots of technologies out there. And at the same time, I'd say, if your heart and passion is in this industry, you naturally everything will come to you easily, because either way you decide. As far, and again, you need to, of course, you need to learn the different components of cybersecurity, but at the same time, when you go as a VCISO, you're going as an executive strategic consultant. So you're not staffing, you're not doing any technical work. You're coming in there and trying to solve a problem for them, and you're helping them build a program. It's beautiful.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, we have actually a couple of talks scheduled next week where they are the kids just 20-year-old, 19-year-old, 21-year-olds, and they
Yeah,
have already hacked into 60 plus companies, and they
yeah,
have got awarded so much in bug bounties. So we have a
yeah.
couple of exciting speakers coming up in
Very nice.
next few weeks.
And
Yeah.
they maybe teach us how to do that on a live.
So one of the
That's
speakers is
good.
going to share
Yeah.
that experience. He has not even finished his degrees. Two of the speakers he has not even
See,
completed.
that's the beauty of it, because they had a passion, right? Or that individual had a passion, pursued it, didn't go the normal route of, okay, well, I need to go get my degree and spend 4 years in a college and spend a ton of money.
But
That's
still,
great.
degree is important. So
Yeah,
I
no, no, no. Sorry, don't
recommend
get
you.
don't get me wrong. Uh, pursuing your education, yes, to Nehal's
Yeah.
point, it is important.
Yes,
Yeah.
Is it
education
needed?
is always important.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Is it needed? That's up to you. Now, if
Yes.
you like school and you love school, go for it. If you don't,
Yeah.
then follow your passion. That's
Yeah, I
all.
think,
That's the
yeah.
advice
So
you can give to everybody on here.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, degree is like formal way to get your education on schedule, on time, so that you don't get distracted
It's,
and don't
it's
go
your
offline.
it's your passport into your first
Yes,
opportunity. Think of
yes,
it this way,
Exactly.
everybody on the call.
yes.
Passport
Yeah,
into your
you are
first
right. Yes,
opportunity.
yes. So I think thank you very much, Ranbir, again for
Absolutely.
attending the
Thank you.
platform and the event. And I will hand over to Dr. Safi, who would bring on stage
So
talented student speaker.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
thank
Ranbir.
you,
Thank you.
Rafi.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Neil.
thank you.
Thank you.